You did not want to shift, but you were at $9,000. You had to. Just bop, bop. One thing I really enjoy about any track day is bumping into people and hopefully getting offers to drive their cars, which I love. I love the experience of a new car. I drove about a 91 Toyota MR2, and Toyotas are tough. You think that'd be fine. With a young kid from UNC Chapel Hill or something, University of North Carolina, and we go out and we're driving around and we get fifth gear on the back straight. Next lap, we don't get fifth gear on the back straight. It's just not pulling the tachometer up like it was. And I go a little further and I said, we're losing power and I think I hear something. So we pulled it down in the pits and the engine died when I lifted off and put the clutch in. Bad signs. We pulled down in the pits and started. Rod knock. I said, did you check the oil in this? Oh yeah, check the oil. Okay, because it's kind of weird for a Toyota, even an old one, to just up and spin a rod bearing. But I always ask the owners to come with me because I want them to see what I'm doing. So they know I didn't get first gear and rev it to 10 grand or anything like that. I also drove a Honda S2000, which was a great car, and it was the first generation with the smaller motor and the higher revs, 9,000 RPM. Engines like that are interesting. Any Honda VTEC, because they pull a big horsepower number and a low torque number. And this is a good lesson in the difference between torque and horsepower. What I like to say is torque is what you feel when you get on the gas, and horsepower is how long you feel it. So say you have a Lamborghini, it has torque and horsepower. So it pushes you back really hard all the way to the red line. Whereas a Honda with a VTEC that's a 1.6 liter or 1.8 liter never pushes you back that hard. But it does go all the way to red line. Which reminds me of a friend of mine, Louis Malone, who's crew chief on the champion Audi team. He was fantastic with setting up engines. And he had an Integra GSR, which is a Honda VTEC that made a lot of power for its size, horsepower. And he put a turbo on it, and he did it just right. That is one of my favorite engines I've ever driven. In a front drive car, I don't know what the power was. I'm going to estimate 300, 350, but with torque, with a lot of torque, and all the way to red line. That engine loved the red line. It would come on boost very quickly, and then just the power curve, I'm sure, was straight up. You did not want to shift, but you were at $9,000. You had to. Just bop, bop. I mean, that is so satisfying. And I'm going to pick on the Mazda Miata right now. The new Mazda Miata comes to my mind because its engine does not do that. It is straight out of the Mazda 3. Great little engine, has a lot of mid-range torque, which other Miatas never really had. But you get up to about 53, 5,400 RPM, and it tails off. And it just feels lazy. You don't want to rev it out. You might as well shift. Shift at 5,400, which reminds me of a Camaro I had. I had a showroom stock Camaro back in the day. It was a 1982. And I did one or two races with it to qualify for the SCCA runoffs back when. That engine, the best lap times were made by shifting at 4,200 RPM. Now, if you're my age, you can relate to that because that's what American engines did back then when they weren't modified. But today, 4,200, most engines aren't even coming on the cams yet, in sporty cars anyway. This was an IROC Camaro, but it was a different age.
As a luxury luxury and exotic brand dealer, you know the challenge of putting the right price tag on perfection. Ritz Garage places you directly in touch with our qualified network of new and used dealers with no auction fees. Ritz Garage. Premium cars, premium dealers without premium fees.